Hello, and a massive warm welcome to this training from binges to balance. I'm Dr. Lara Zibarras, and I'm really excited to be sharing the 3-step plan to help end binges, eating chaos, and finally get your act together around food. I'd love to know where you're dialing in from, so let me know in the comments where you are watching this from. I'm based in London. So I bet you're here for a reason, or there might be multiple reasons where you decided to hop on this training. I bet you're someone who would love to just eat 2 cookies and just get on with your day without the spiral or having to eat the whole packet. Let me know if that resonates. I bet you'd love to be able to walk past the chocolate in the cupboard and not hear it calling your name, to be able to trust yourself enough to have binge foods in the house and not be afraid to actually keep them at home because you're worried that you're going to lose control. I bet you would love to just sit down to dinner and actually enjoy it. You can feel calm and present, maybe, not that mental calculation buzzing around your head of how many calories or whether you are going to binge afterwards. How good would that be? And I bet you're tired of lying in bed at night, worrying about what you ate during the day, or worrying about what you might eat the next day, and worrying about how you're going to fix the binge that you had earlier. Give me a hell yeah if any of these resonate with you. And also let me know, give me a yes if any of these sound like you. I bet you're someone who consistently makes healthy choices. So maybe you have the soup and the salad, or you have your smoothie, but then when evening comes, something snaps and you feel out of control. You can't stop yourself from eating. Or maybe you're someone who's done literally every diet under the sun. You've done keto, you've done calorie tracking, maybe you've tried MyFitnessPal. Maybe you've even tried different hacks like brushing your teeth or trying to increase your willpower. And maybe sometimes the binges seem to stop for a bit, but nothing really lasts. And maybe you're someone who has eaten in secret. Give me a yes if this has happened to you, because I've definitely been there as well, where you're eating behind closed doors, quietly unwrapping the chocolate or the crisps and then shoving the evidence in the bottom of the bin, or like hiding wrappers from the rest of your family. And I bet one bite of bad food makes you just think, oh, sod it. And you end up eating the whole lot, not even tasting it. And then you're probably promising yourself that you'll start all over again tomorrow. Let me know if any of that sounds familiar to you. Now, the thing is, when people are trying to stop feeling so out of control around food, what most people do is they just focus on what it is they're eating. And probably you've done that as well, right? But the thing is, healing your relationship with food takes more than just a meal plan or just focusing on what it is you're eating. For true and lasting change, you need to work on more than just food, because binging, overeating, emotional eating, it's not just about what it is you're eating. You see, that's not the whole picture. It's not just what you eat, it's also why you eat and how you think and feel, both about food and also about your body. And that's why in everything I do, whether it's courses or coaching, I use this powerful blend of nutrition science, psychology, and this mind-body connection and an emotional reset so that you can actually stop binging, emotional eating, or overeating for good. Now, in today's training, these are the things we're going to cover. So first of all, I want to have a look at some of the biggest mistakes that women are making when they are trying to fix or sort out their binge eating, their overeating, or just feeling out of control around food. Then I'm going to explain why none of this, whether it's binge eating, overeating, emotional eating, nothing None of those things have anything to do with willpower, even if that's what you've been told. I'm also going to talk about this idea of control and how trying to create more control actually leads you to feeling more out of control. And then finally, I'm going to introduce you to this 3-step method, the food and body freedom method, which is a practical and proven approach to help people get their act together around food. Now, before we jump in, I would love to introduce myself and tell you a bit about my story. So I'm Lara, aka the Food Freedom Psychologist. I live in London now, but I spent all my early years in Kenya, where I grew up, and I lived there till I was 18. I've got a PhD in psychology. I'm a certified nutrition and wellness coach, and also have an advanced diploma in eating disorders and nutritional interventions. And now I've worked with just over 200 women globally to help them break that binge cycle and heal their relationship with food. But it certainly wasn't always that way, because I am also a recovered binge eater. And I would say I had about 20 to 25 years of a very negative relationship with food. Now, food literally used to rule every single part of my life. I spent years swinging between these extremes. On the one end, I was doing all the intense diets, the cleanses, the healthy eating plans. And then on the other end, I was feeling like I was totally out of control around food. It felt very chaotic, binges, overeating, emotional eating, eating secretly, constantly falling off this wagon. I felt so out of control around food. I didn't feel like I could even have anything that was quote unquote not allowed in the house. And honestly, I thought I was the problem. I kept on thinking that if only I could find more willpower, or I could find the right diet, or the right healthy eating plan. And honestly, I tried absolutely everything to fix my broken relationship with food. So I went on the strict plans. I saw nutritionists. I took loads of supplements. I read all the books, tried loads of willpower hacks. And honestly, I felt like I tried absolutely everything. And sometimes I thought I found the answer, but nothing really worked in the long run. And what I was starting to realize is that the more I cut food out of my diet, the stronger the cravings became. So the more strict I became with my eating, the more out of control the binges felt. And I remember this moment, which was definitely my rock bottom, where I had literally started the day doing things so well. I'd made a promise to myself that today things would be different. But by evening, I literally walked past the corner shop, couldn't stop myself, bought a whole load of food. And there I was, just eating everything completely mindlessly, not even tasting it. And I got to this point after I'd eaten this huge amount of food. I was like, what am I doing here? I was feeling physically stuffed, disgusted, ashamed. I had definitely promised myself I wasn't going to do this again. And I literally felt broken. I was at my wit's end and didn't really know where to turn. And let me know if you felt like that. But that brokenness was just horrendous. And it was in that moment that it suddenly struck me. Basically, every single thing I had done up until that point had made things worse. And I had this moment of realization after 20 or possibly even 25 years, when I realized it wasn't me that was the problem. It had to be the approach that I was taking. All of these diets, these healthy eating plans, the skipping meals, the cutting out food, the constant need to control and ignore my hunger, ironically, it was making things worse. I realized that at that moment, I had to stop trying to find the perfect healthy eating plan, and actually probably had to unlearn a lot of the things that I thought I was meant to be doing to have a perfect relationship with food. So that's when I started really doing the reading. You see, I was actually trained in psychology. I had been a psychologist many years up until that point. I'd even studied health psychology at university. I'd done a postgraduate degree, and I thought I really knew stuff, but clearly not. So I went back and started looking at the real science and psychology behind binge eating, behind cravings, behind emotional eating, and also saw a recovery coach to work on my relationship with food. And then I took things a little bit further. I went and trained as a nutrition coach. I trained in intuitive eating, and then I got myself this advanced diploma in eating disorders and nutritional interventions. And what I realized is that in order for us to recover, we need to work on more than just the behavior, eating and food, but we also need to look at mindset, psychology, and emotions. Because as I mentioned earlier, binging, overeating, emotional eating, it isn't just about what it is you're eating, it's also about how you think and how you feel about food. So, what I've done now is I've obviously taken my personal experience along with all the things that I've learned along the way, my knowledge, my training, my psychology PhD, and I've created an approach that applies everything that I've learned to helping people heal their relationship with food, but for good. And now, for me personally, food no longer controls me. I can eat, enjoy food, and just move on without that guilt or the worry about spiraling into a binge. I feel at peace with food. And the big thing for me is that there's no more food noise. Like, things are quiet. I don't constantly think about food or worry about food or think about how I'm going to undo the day's eating. And now I've helped over 200 clients get to the same place where they are feeling much more peaceful, calm, and in charge around food so that they can basically quiet the chaos, get rid of that food noise. And I know this approach works because I get amazing feedback from clients like this. So, like Yolande, who struggled with binge eating for over 20 years. She followed all the strict diets, the healthy eating regimes, and now she's finally able to go weeks without binging. Or Georgia, who is able to stop herself spiraling. Or Christina, who found that with the method that I use, she stopped having such intense cravings. Or Steph, who is able to resist that urge to emotionally eat, even when there's a trigger. And I feel so grateful to have supported so many people through this process so that they can feel that calm and peace around food and stop living with that food noise and food chaos. So let's jump into the training then. So I first want to talk about the 3 major mistakes that women are making when they try and stop their binge eating. So the very first mistake that people do is they just focus on food. So this might seem like the really logical fix. And I would say that this is a lot of the advice that we see out there in social media. This idea that if you are binging, just eat less and you're not going to binge. But the thing is, if you've ever done that and eaten the perfect lunch or skipped breakfast only to end up binging later, you know that it's not that simple, because when you focus just on food, you're missing why you eat. And so the second that life gets stressful or busy, then everything unravels. Mistake number 2 is just focusing on therapy. So you might have linked your overeating or chaotic relationship with food. Maybe you've linked that to years of trauma. So yes, I do believe that understanding a little bit about your past is important, but having that insight alone isn't going to stop a binge on a Tuesday night. So maybe you have learned to journal or to breathe or feel your feelings. But if you're still stuck restricting or ignoring hunger, then that's not going to help in the moment. And the final mistake number 3, is to just focus on mindset alone. Now, Mindset work can feel really empowering, but it's not going to override a hungry body or a dysregulated nervous system. And you definitely can't affirmation your way out of a binge, especially if that's driven by biology or emotion dysregulation. Now, having been in this field for quite a few years now, I haven't seen a method that combines all three elements. Because if you focus on just one of these alone, just the food or emotion regulation or just focusing on mindset, then what you've done isn't going to stick for good. And it's not that you failed, far from it, because you have been doing what you think is the right course of action. It's just that the focus or the method is incomplete. If you want to stop binge eating, overeating, emotional eating for good, then it takes more than one piece of the puzzle. You see, most of the programs that are out there just try to solve the problem by focusing on one element. But as we see before, this chaotic and out of control feeling around food isn't just physical, it's not just emotional, it's not just mental. It is all three of those things. And that's why my approach, the food and body freedom method, puts together all three elements. And it's a bit like three pieces of a puzzle. So piece number one is food and nutrition, and this is your biological foundation. You need to first learn how to nourish your body properly, balance your blood sugar levels, know how to tune into your appetite and work with your hunger hormones, not against them. Piece number two is about mindset and beliefs, and this is your mental reset. So you also need to shift some of the thoughts, the beliefs, and the inner dialogue that are keeping you stuck, and start looking at food and yourself and your body in a totally different way. And the third piece is the emotional coping tool. So this focuses on your emotion regulation system, because you also need tools to manage stress or soothe overwhelm and support your nervous system, so you don't turn to food every time life gets busy or things feel stressful. And these three pieces work together. So this combination of food, mindset and beliefs, and emotions is what makes the food and body freedom method different. Because what you do is you bring all three pieces together to create that long-term solution that lasts. Now, the second thing I wanted to talk about is this point that binge eating, emotional eating, overeating, it's not a willpower problem at all. And I want to explain exactly what is actually going on in your body and brain. Now, I want you to picture this. And it's probably a scenario you found yourself in a lot, where you've been told, and this is very common advice, that if you want to stop feeling so out of control around food, you have to restrict food and you have to hide your binge foods. And maybe it works for a little while, but before long, you find yourself binging again. And then maybe you try harder and harder, maybe trying again to use your willpower, but you fall off the wagon over and over again. And what people generally tend to do is they blame their willpower and say, well, it's because I don't have enough willpower, or I don't have enough discipline. I just need to try harder. Let me know if any of these thoughts sound familiar. Maybe you've asked yourself where your off button is, or is there something wrong with me? Am I broken? I'm sure you've all said, I've got no willpower, or I just don't have enough discipline. Maybe you think you keep ruining it. And some people, is there actually something wrong with me? What am I doing wrong? But I want you to know, and if this is the only thing you take away from today's training, then that is amazing. Binge eating isn't a personal failure. It's actually a survival response. And that's because your body and your brain are wired to protect you from starvation and also stress. So overeating, binging, emotional eating, that's basically how your body fights back against restriction. And there's two levels. There's the biological level and the psychological level. So I want to explain exactly what happens to your body and your brain when you start restricting your food. Now, this is the biological response to restriction. And here's what happens. So you decide to restrict your food. Maybe you cut your calories or cut out certain food groups. And what often happens, and this is what keeps people coming back, is you have this initial feeling of euphoria and control. You're like, oh my gosh, this is working. This is amazing. Maybe you lose a little bit of weight and that feels really positive to you. But then at some point, you start craving and obsessing over food. So you suddenly notice that you are more hungry. That's actually because your hunger hormones go into overdrive. We produce more hunger hormones and it becomes harder to get full. So our brain becomes hyper focused on food. You have these cravings, you have this obsession, and you just want to eat something. So eventually, and it might be at the end of the day, the end of the week, the end of the month, you end up binging or eating those bad or off limits foods. And it generally is those foods that you focus on. Then you end up feeling guilty, like a failure. Oh my God, I've ruined it again. And that leads you back to the beginning of the process where you decide to restrict your diet, calorie, or food groups. So that's the biological response. The psychological response is similar. So if I told you, don't think of a pink elephant, what would be the first thing that you think of? Exactly. You're thinking of a pink elephant, right? And that is exactly how your brain responds to restriction. The more you tell yourself, I can't have this, I mustn't eat chocolate, I mustn't eat crisps, those are the very things you want because it triggers something called the forbidden fruit effect, where you end up craving all the foods you told yourself you can't have. And then if you do go ahead and eat those foods, then you feel super guilty, like, oh my gosh, I've ruined everything. You may have that oh sod it effect and the binge spiral starts all over again. Now, again, I want to highlight you are not broken. You're just stuck in a pattern. And the good thing about being stuck in a pattern is that patterns can be changed. So if you have learned something over the course of your life, it is possible to unlearn it. So no, you don't need more willpower. You actually need a new approach. And with the right support tools and the right method, you can actually break free from this horrible negative cycle you might have found yourself in around food. So if binging, overeating, emotional eating isn't about willpower and it isn't about you being broken, what is it about? It's actually about meeting your needs. So biologically, emotionally, and psychologically, mentally. And that's why the approach that I take, the food and body freedom method, brings together all of these three pieces of the puzzle. So we want the food and nutrition to calm the biological chaos. We want to focus on mindset and beliefs to rewire the patterns that are keeping you stuck. And we want these emotional coping tools to help soothe and regulate your nervous system, your emotions, without turning to food. And when you bring all three of these elements together, that's how you can heal your relationship with food for the long run. And this is a bit like Tara. So she is a mum of one and runs her own business, i.e., her life is pretty busy. And she spent years and years trying to fix her binge eating. She tried dieting, she tried being better, and she definitely tried to increase her willpower, but nothing stuck for the long term. But when she found the food and body freedom method, everything started to fall into place. She began tuning into hunger and fullness. She finally learned how to tell the difference between real hunger and emotional hunger. And now food feels so much less chaotic and she's back in charge. and feeling much more confident around food. Amazing. Love it. The final training thing that I wanted to talk about was this point about control. So if you are finding yourself clinging to more rules, thinking, I just need to be more disciplined, or maybe I haven't found the right meal plan yet, then this is definitely for you. So if that sounds familiar, this idea that you might be having, you want to have more control or more rules, but actually that's leading to more chaos, then let's have a look at what control is actually doing. Now, people often approach this thinking that more control is going to give them more peace, but actually that's not true. Because if you have really strict rules, then you worry about breaking them. So the more you try to be perfect, then the pressure builds. And then when you mess up, you tell yourself, oh, sod it. I wasn't able to stick to these rules. I may as well just eat the whole packet. And then that guilt fuels more restriction and you find yourself stuck in that cycle once again. That control ends up controlling your whole life. And so it actually gets worse over time because you're constantly thinking about food. There's that food noise going on. Maybe you start canceling social plans or avoiding events because you don't know whether you're going to be able to stay in control, or you're worried about what someone is going to serve you. So you are literally falling asleep thinking, how can I be better? And then waking up thinking, today I'm going to keep on track. What can I do to stay good today? So you have a brain full of rules, full of guilt, full of fear, and it's definitely not leading to more peace. It actually leads to more chaos. So you think control is going to bring you calm, but it really doesn't, because you are now constantly thinking about food. There's that food noise. You're swinging between being good and binging. You're stuck in this constant cycle and you never feel relaxed around food. So it creates more chaos in the long run. And really, you don't need more control, but you do need all three pieces of the puzzle. And another thing we need, and this really is part of the biological foundation, but it's a really important part of the process that I call nutritional rehabilitation. And it's a structure that works in harmony with your body, and something that I teach inside the Food and Body Freedom Method. Essentially, it helps regulate your hunger hormones, stabilizes your blood sugar levels, and rebuilds trust in your appetite so that you can focus on internal signals of hunger and fullness rather than relying on some sort of external cue to you eat this at this time and eat that at another time. So the point here is that you're finally able to eat when you're hungry and, crucially, stop when you're full. And a bit like Steph, so she's got to the point where food decisions feel much easier, and not because she's restricting food or telling herself that she can't have stuff, is because she's checking in with her body. So when she says no to this sausage roll, it's not because she's trying to be good, air quotes there, or because she's on a diet or a healthy eating plan. It's because she realizes she doesn't really want it at that moment. And that, to me, is real freedom around food. So how do you actually stop that out of control feeling? Well, what we know is we don't need to find the perfect diet or the right diet. We certainly don't need more willpower, and we definitely don't need more rules. But what we do need is to pull these three pieces of the puzzle together. So we need to focus on food and nutrition, your biology and behaviors. So that's your biological foundation. Then we want to focus on psychology, so mindset, beliefs, and thoughts, and then look at mind-body tools. So looking at your emotions and nervous system regulation. So if you're ready to find out about this simple 3-step roadmap to end binges and eating chaos, put your hands up, give me a hell yeah. Let me show you how this actually works. So if we want to work on your relationship with food and get to the point where you're feeling in charge and confident and it works for life, this is the process that we go through. And it's a 3-step process to get to the point where you are feeling in charge and confident. So the very first step is to uncover what is going on. So we're looking at what is really driving your binging. So we've established that it's not just about what you eat, but it's also about what you think and feel. So we're looking at what are the habits, what are the deeper patterns and the triggers that actually are keeping you stuck in your relationship with food as it stands currently. The next step is balance. So this is where nutritional rehabilitation comes in, because we want to stabilize your blood sugar levels. We want to work in harmony with your hormones, especially your hunger hormones. We want to get to the point where you're able to regulate your appetite as you want to. So you're pretty much stopping those binge urges before they even start. And then the final stage is to rewire the way that we think and feel about food. So we use psychology-based tools, but also emotion and nervous system regulation tools to get you to the point where you are not using food as a way to cope, where you are not falling back into these kind of rigid patterns, this guilt and fear or control around food. So let's expand each of these ones here. So the uncovering is interesting, actually, because this is the point where a lot of people skip ahead. They try and fix their eating without really understanding why it's happening. And that's not going to work in the long run. So here, what we want to do is slow down, look beneath the surface, and really understand what's triggering the binging, what patterns are playing out. Once we uncover the root, then you can stop feeling so broken and you can finally let go of that. Once you know exactly what's going on, there's that amazing feeling of like, oh, it makes sense. I get why I've been feeling so out of control. And then crucially, you know what you need to do to change it. And actually at this point, if you would like to, I have a free quiz called the Food Noise Quiz. And that helps you uncover the hidden reasons why food feels so out of control. And what you get off the back of it, and after completing this, is you'll understand exactly what's keeping you stuck and which element is keeping you most stuck. So you'll get the order that it is for you. That's the kind of the hidden reasons. There are 3 main reasons, and you'll understand which order they are in for you personally. Now, the next step is to balance. And here we're using this nutritional rehab, and that's stabilizing everything that's going on. But what this does is really amazing, actually, because it helps you feel much more clear-headed and peaceful around food. So cravings go, you're not feeling that wild, out of control feeling around food, and nothing seems to be taking over your day. Cool, calm, and clear-headed. And then the final step is to rewire. So this process is really important because what we're doing is we're rewiring the mindset, the beliefs, those core beliefs that might feel really ingrained. We are rewiring them so that you're not always reaching for food, for example, as a way to cope. So we focus on the emotions, what's going on, why is it, or which particular emotions have you reaching for food. And then we give you different coping tools to help you cope in the moment so that food isn't the first thing you do to try and fix it. So you're feeling back in charge again around food, doesn't feel chaotic. There's no fear or guilt or endless rules anymore. And I want to introduce you to Shanaz, who honestly had been, as she said, binging for 40 years. She had literally tried everything, the diets, the plans, different programs, and absolutely nothing had worked. And to say that she was at her wit's end is perhaps a little bit of an understatement, because when we first started talking, she felt that she was absolutely broken. But just a few weeks into using the binge-free method, the food and body freedom method, things started to shift for her. And she began eating based on how she was feeling and her hunger, not based on rules or guilt. She stopped grazing all day. And that mental food noise, it slowly started to quiet down to the point where it disappeared altogether. And now she's completely recovered from binge eating. And honestly, it has totally changed her life. So if you are ready to get your life back and finally stop that out of control eating, then just to say that enrollment is open for food and body wisdom mastery. So if you're someone that feels like they are so ready to feel normal around food again, then this is for you. And I'm briefly going to let you know what it is. So essentially, food and body wisdom mastery, there's two ways of joining this. So you can either join on a one-to-one basis or on a group coaching basis. And elements of it are exactly the same. So for both options, you get access to 3 core modules that follow the food and body freedom method. So which is essentially 24 videos and some resources that help you go through this process. You get bonuses, lifetime access to course content, and you can pay flexibly. The key difference between the two options is that with the group coaching, you get access to bi-weekly group calls for 16 weeks where you bring all your comments. I keep these really, really small. So there are never more than about 5 people on these calls. So we're keeping it really small, discreet, and an opportunity for you to really ask questions in a safe environment. Or you can opt for the one-to-one coaching support, which is 12 one-to-one coaching calls with me, where you get personalized support and I take you through this 3-step process of food and body wisdom mastery. And I just want to share some more feedback that I've had from people over the last few months. So again, we're hearing from Steph who's having a positive week, no binges, no overeating. Georgia, who's able to resist those urges and using some of the somatic practices that I've shared with her, that's really helping her regulate her nervous system and not use food as a way to cope. We've got Tara, who's changing her habits around how she's nourishing your body. And Yolande here, who is able to stop eating when she's had enough rather than just finishing everything off her plate. And this is some feedback from Ruby, who we worked together last year. And she emailed me to reach out saying that she hadn't binged for over a year. She's able to eat whatever she wants, isn't restricting herself, and even wore a bikini on her last holiday without feeling too self-conscious, which is just such lovely news to hear. And then more feedback from people able to talk themselves down from binge, someone able to have a downer but not use food as a way to cope, accept their body, and be able to, again, focus on nourishing your body. So still building health habits to nourish your body, but not spiraling into a binge. So, if you are ready to find out more about the food and body wisdom mastery, then you can click your link to book a call with me. So, we chat for about 30 minutes just to find out a little bit more about what's going on and to see whether food and body wisdom mastery is something that will work for you. So I just want to say a massive thank you for your time today, for listening to me. And if you have any questions at all, just reach out and hopefully I will be chatting to you soon. Bye for now.